Hello there, and welcome back to my channel. I make quality content that I know I asked for besides today's video, because people actually asked for this video, so I'm getting the people what they want. But today's video is basically part 2 of my making Miraculous Ladybug cosplay series, because in my last video I showed you guys how I did my Ladybug cosplay, you know, the legendary sparkling Ladybug suit. So I showed you guys how I did that cosplay all from scratch, and it was a whole journey, so I recommend checking out that video. But today is really part 2 of it, because I think it's very fitting that the next upload is how I made my Marinette Dupain-Cheng cosplay, because obviously you can't have Ladybug without Marinette, kind of like can't have Spider-Man without Peter Parker or Batman without Bruce Wayne. So yes, I'll be showing you guys how to do my Marinette cosplay. And one thing I find very interesting about this cosplay is in my Ladybug video, I show you guys how I made a cosplay completely from scratch. Like, I made everything in that suit besides the yo-yo. But my Marinette cosplay is like almost the opposite of that, because I mostly bought the pieces for this cosplay, because sometimes I don't want to make a blazer or make a pair of pink pants, so I just buy clothing pieces that already existed and alter them to fit the character, which I think is a great way to start cosplaying, especially if you're new, because someone like me, I have a ton of experience, so I can look at a character and just like whip out a Ladybug suit just like that. But not everybody's quite there yet, so I think a great way to start cosplaying, if you want to start making them, of course, is making characters like Marinette and just buying pre-existing clothing pieces and just altering it to make it look like the character. So I did a lot of that in my Marinette cosplay, so I'm just going to show you guys how I did that process, because I bought all the bases for this cosplay. I bought the blazer, I bought the t-shirt, I bought the pants, I bought the shoes. I just alter them, like I added stuff to it to make it more accurate to Marinette, or just the way I want it to look. So yeah, so I thought it'd be a fun video to have like a totally different contrast from you buying a costume to you making a costume, and I can have like the in-between where you can buy things but alter it. So I cannot wait to show you guys how to do that type of process. But yeah, so let's just dive right into it, how I made my Marinette Dupain-Cheng cosplay. So in my Ladybug cosplay making video, I did a quick backstory of how this cosplay came to be, and I have something similar with Marinette, so you don't want to listen to that, that's fine. Here's the timestamp so you can go right to the cosplay making. But if you're curious to how this costume came to be, here you go. So it's very similar to Ladybug, because I made them around the same time. I made Ladybug first, and like right after I made Marinette. But if you don't know, I didn't like Miraculous Ladybug for the longest time, and then my mom got into the show, and then she made me into the show, and I had like this denial period, okay? I was like Adrian when he said to Marinette, "You're just a friend." Denial, am I right? You know, it's more than a river in Egypt. So one day my mom and I went to the thrift store, and I was looking for, and I wasn't even looking for cosplay stuff, I was looking for stuff to wear to work, because I just started my job, the job I still work now. And while we were looking for clothes, my mom came up to me and she'll hold this gray blazer, and she's like, "Tiffany, I found the perfect Marinette blazer. Maybe you should cosplay Marinette, because I found the perfect blazer for it." And I was like, "No, Mom, I keep telling you I don't want to cosplay Marinette." You know, she wants me to, because she thinks I'll look absolutely fantastic as her. And she's not wrong. We both have Asian. But anyways, so I keep telling my mom, "No, I don't want to cosplay Marinette. You can put the blazer back." And she's like, "No, I'm going to buy the blazer and you're going to thank me later." And I am forever thankful. So my mom was so persistent. She's like, "You might not want to cosplay her now, but you want to cosplay her eventually." So she bought this blazer, and literally like a few weeks later I decided to be Marinette. So I'm totally grateful for my mom's purse. But yeah, I did Ladybug first, and after I made my Ladybug cosplay, I'm like, you know what? I like cosplaying Miraculous. Let's do Marinette now. And since my mom, you know, bought me the blazer to start out with, I'm like, might as well just make the whole cosplay. So that's where we are now. So yeah, so that's a little bit backstory of how Marinette came to be, which is peer pressure by my mom, but it was the good type of peer pressure, and also me cosplaying Ladybug. Again, you had to have the secret identity, because, you know, that's a big part of the show. So let's just dive right into the video. So let's see how I did my Marinette cosplay, how I altered the clothes to make it look like her clothes. Alrighty, narrator me making appearance. So I did fast forward this clip because I talked for like 5 minutes about the clothes and I thought that was like far too long, so I'm just going to do a quick overview of it. So here's what the clothes look like on me before I alter them, because I thought that'd be important to show for this video, because the whole point of this cosplay was me buying clothes and altering it to look like the character. So here what the clothes look like on me before. So this blazer I'm wearing here, I actually got it from a thrift store. I think I paid like $4 for it or something, so I didn't feel so bad altering it. And what I was gonna do is I'm gonna like snip off some parts of the blazer's collar to make it fit Marinette's better, as well as take out the button because her blazer doesn't have that. So that's some changes I'm gonna do on the blazer. And here's the shirt I bought too. I got it on Amazon, and I didn't really like the way the shirt looks either, but the print of the flower, and also didn't have other detailings on the shirt, so I'm also going to be updating that as well. And one thing that I also talked about in this clip was the pants. Now let me tell you, finding pink pants online that are jeans, very difficult for some reason. I couldn't find the color that I wanted for Marinette because a lot of jeans that I saw online, mind you, I bought all of this on Amazon. A lot of it was either like a coral peachy color, which is closer to her pant color than the other color I saw, which is like this blush mauve pink, which is not Marinette color either. Marinette's pants are like a pink, so it took me a long time to find a pant color that I was okay with. So I found these like semi-hot pink jeans. And one thing I was going to alter on the jeans is Marinette had these hem detailing on her bottom that has polka dots on it. So that's one thing I am also going to do in this video too, is showing you how to do this. And another thing I also didn't mention here because I didn't buy at the time, we also will be making her shoes. So I also bought base shoes for that as well on Amazon, but those were much easier to find. And we're also going to be making the bag from scratch because I'm not gonna pay $50 for a little coin purse from the Zakura store. I had to be honest there. I had a lot of the materials already, so I was like, why not make it? So that's the quick overview of what the clothes looked like before. So here's one last look. So let's just dive right into the cosplay making and see how I changed these clothes to make it closer to Marinette. So the first thing I worked on in this cosplay was the jacket. So here what the jacket looked like before once again. And the first thing I did was remove that button on the jacket because obviously Marinette doesn't have a button on her jacket. So I just grabbed a seam ripper and later on scissors just to remove that button because it was thick, man, with the thread. So I took that off, put in my button tin, and then I went to the collar and I snipped off some thread to make the collar a little bit more open, more point here to make it more accurate to what Marinette has. So I just grabbed some scissors and a seam ripper and did that. And then after that I grabbed my lining fabric, which is this white with pink polka dot fabric. I traced the collar or the front facing piece. I literally just traced that, and then that's how I made my pattern. And I literally just did a top stitch over the lining to make it easier because originally I thought I was going to line this whole jacket, but I realized that not all the lining is going to be seen, so why make it more difficult, you know what I mean? So I only just put lining where it's going to be shown and then some just for safety. And yeah, I did a top stitch all the way around where I attached the lining on both sides. And it's okay to do this because I'm going to put bias tape over it. So once I put bias tape over it, you're not going to see all the top stitch marks. So yeah, so that's what I did here. So everywhere that the lining is shown, I just stick on that white and pink polka dot fabric. Just popping in here really quickly because I didn't film this part of the video because it got a little chaotic, but I want to show you guys tell you guys how I did it before we go on to the next portion. So I show you guys how I did the lining of this jacket. Like I just literally traced the jacket and hand stitched this lining on. But one thing I did not film because things got chaotic there was this black binding part, because Marinette has this black binding around her jacket, and this adding black binding is perfect because it helped hide the top stitching we did for the lining. However, fun fact, when I was cosplaying Marinette for the first time, one reason why I decided to cosplay Marinette very quickly was because I was going to meet Bryce Pappenbrick for the first time and I wanted to be Marinette, but I didn't give myself enough time to actually work on her outfit, and me and my mother knew that already. But in our minds, like, well, if we can't get the whole outfit done, we can at least get the jacket done, because for me that's like the main part of the costume. So I showed you guys how I did the lining, but I never did the binding because, again, it got chaotic because we literally did this the night before we had to meet Bryce Papenbrook, and one reason why it got chaotic was because me and my mother, we went to Walmart and we bought black binding, but I was new to binding and I didn't know there was like all these different sizes of binding, and I didn't know there was a thing called like double fold, so I got the wrong size binding and it was just not working out for us. So I realized that we got the wrong size binding, so we had to take that apart, like the part we sewed, because it was getting really awful. And then it was really like 8 p.m. and we're like, okay, Joann's is closed, how are we going to get this black binding because we're going to see Bryce Papenbrook tomorrow? Luckily, Walmart closes at 11 p.m. and the Walmart we went to originally didn't have the right like sizing, so we went to a different Walmart and they had, thankfully, I used my Ladybug luck here, the correct binding. But since it got so chaotic, we didn't film it because we're in a crunch, it was chaotic. And another thing that was really hard about this outfit was because you had like this blazer is kind of thick, and when you do all these different layerings of binding and stuff, my sewing machine could not handle it, so it got chaotic. But what I did was I literally just got black binding and I just pinned it around the jacket here and I just sewed it. And it came to be. But my advice is to make sure you buy the right size binding, and if you think it's too big, it's not too big. Because I'd rather it be thicker than being too big than too small, because if it's too small, it's not gonna work out. But yes, it worked out in the end. My binding looks fine, but it was hard. Actually, I ended up not doing the binding. I was having too much of a difficult time and it was looking ugly, so my mom did it and she was struggling. And fun fact, this is the last thing me and my mom ever worked on because she passed away right after we made this cosplay. But here we go. So I never filmed that part because it got chaotic, but that's how I did the jacket. Was I had the lining, I top stitched it, and I covered the top stitching with this black binding, which is very accurate to what she wears in the show. Just make sure you get the right size. And you're not sure it's the right size, get multiple sizes. And I used about 2 packs of binding, so this was definitely the hardest part of the cosplay.
Now that story time is out of the way, the next thing I worked on this cosplay was the pants. So what I did was I folded where I wanted the hem of the pants to be, because she has this detailing on the bottom of her pants. And what I did to secure the hem, or that little fold, was I did this little top stitch or base stitch around the pants. And I wish I did this with the jacket too, because the reason why I did this, because if you just fold it over normally, your pants would just come undone. So I rather have this little stay stitch, so it will stay stuck like this until I take it out. And then the next thing I did was I grabbed my lining fabric, the same one I used for my jacket, this white with pink polka dot fabric. I cut it into strips, and then I just put that over where the jeans were, where I want, it to be shown, and I just put pins there. And I also did like a little, I fold the fabric over so you won't see the raw edges, so it'll look much more cleaner. And the way that I'm going to attach all of this lining is hot glue it, because I did not want to sew this down. So I just grabbed my hot glue, and the first thing I did was the inside, so I just glue all the way around the edges of the lining. And now if you're gonna do this, make sure you don't machine wash your pants. You gotta hand wash them, but I don't wash my costumes that often anyways. And then I just hot glue wherever the edges were of that lining. This is so much easier, and I make sure that I kept a little bit of the jean open so I can fold it over to hide that raw edges there, so therefore it also looks more accurate to her show. So this part was fairly easy. So again, I'm just showing the same process on each leg. I said I grabbed my hot glue gun, I went to the edges of the pants and just hot glue it down with so much hot glue because I didn't want to stitch it. So yeah, and I went to the side and I hot glued again, and you can keep seeing that I keep doing that over and over again. Here you can see a closer look that I said I left a little bit of the jean peeking through. So therefore I can fold it over with hot glue and to help hide that raw edge too, and make it much more cleaner, and it looks like it's purposeful, because that's important. So here's me showing you that I said I kept that little bit of jean open and just hot gluing down so it can cover all the raw edges, and therefore we also don't have to worry about fraying too, because this lining fabric does fray. So, and that's how I did the hem of the pants. That's probably the worst way I could describe it, but I don't know how to describe it besides I got some fabric and I just literally hot glued it to jeans. So make sure you don't machine wash it. And next thing I'm going to do is fix the detailing on the shirt. So let's go to that. Again, I bought this shirt on Amazon and I feel like it doesn't really match the listing photo because even though the shirt is accurate to Marinette's, it's not completely accurate because it's missing a lot of detailing, especially on the design. So that's what I'm fixing here. This is kind of unnecessary, but I feel like everything I'm doing in this cosplay is unnecessary. But I want to make sure my cosplays are as accurate as possible. So I got some gray fabric paint. Well, actually it's not gray. I just mixed white and black together and I just literally painted gray where the leaves are because that's what Marinette has. And yes, it's important to use fabric paint when you're using fabric. Don't use acrylic paint because it just doesn't work. And then after I did the gray part of the leaves, I could just continue doing more of the detailings on the costume. So I just got some 3D puffy paint. I don't know why I used it, but I just decided to, I guess, to add more pizzazz, and I just added puffy paint, you know, like the little vines to leaves on her shirt. So that's what I did here. And one thing I also did, but I also didn't put it on camera for some reason, is I also painted the collar black of the t-shirt, same with the edge of the shirt, because Marinette has that too. I recommend not doing that and just have bias tape, but I didn't have bias tape at the time. So now I'm going to work on the back. So this is the back portion of the video. So the first thing I did was made a pattern, and from the pattern I sketched the design so I know how big I need to cut out the appliques, and I traced that onto some parchment paper, and then I just started cutting out all those pieces. But I love doing this, like the parchment paper method is perfect for making like little patterns you want to do, so that is what I'm doing here. And after I cut out all the little pattern pieces, I just start painting them onto the fabric that I'm using. I was using some plain cotton fabric, and I just started cutting out all the pieces I needed for the purse. Now the reason why I'm making these little like fabric appliques versus just painting on the detailing on the purse is therefore I can just make sure it looks cleaner, because if I hand paint all of this detailing on the purse, like without the applique, I feel like it would come out bad, and if I mess up, that sucks. So therefore, the appliques give me much more chances to fix mistakes if I ever went there. And then after I was done cutting out all the pieces, I grabbed some more fabric paint and I paint all the little detailings that Marinette has on her bag, which is all the little logo detailing. So that I did here. So I mostly use pink fabric paint here, and then I just paint all the bases of that. And remember, use fabric paint, not acrylic paint. That's very important. And once I was done painting all of that, I grabbed some No Sew fabric glue. I like using this brand, and I put them on the brush, and then I just start sticking all the pieces together. And that's what I did here. And then after I was done sticking all those pieces together, I finished the rest of the detailing on the applique. So I have her famous M on there, as well as all other detailings I needed for this applique. And I know it seems pretty extra for me to be making the bag, because I know the bag is available on the Zack Hero store to purchase for like $50, but I think that is way too much. And again, I have most of the resources anyways to make the bag, so I thought, why not make it, because I do have this skill set, and it was really fun making this bag. It's one of the favorite parts I made of this outfit. So yeah, I'm just finished all the little detailings I need on the applique. Then I move on to the base bag itself. So again, I made my pattern, I added some seam allowance to it, I grabbed some pink cotton fabric with white polka dots. I actually got this from Walmart, and I went to my sewing machine, I stitched all those pieces together, and I also did the exact same thing for the lining, and I grabbed this maroon type fabric, this burgundy, and what I'm showing here is that I'm leaving the top and bottom parts unsewn, so I basically just sewn the sides of the lining, and I pinned the lining together to the bag, and then I went to my sewing machine and I sewed the bottom of it, so therefore they can be stuck together, because I realized that's the best way to attach it. And then after I was done attaching the lining and the main fabric, I grabbed these little like coin purse closures, and these ones are really cute because they're a lotus design, and I thought that would just add a little bit more detailing to this bag, because that's a great thing about making your own stuff. They can add these like personal flares and what you think is probably more accurate to the character versus buying a mass-produced product. And I just start stitching on that closure. So these closures have little holes on them, and you just feed your needle through those closures. It was actually pretty easy to put in. And then after I was done with the closure, I went to glue the applique on with the fabric glue. And that's how I did the little applique part. And then once I was done with attaching the applique, that is when I did the rest of the detailing on the bag, where I hand stitch it. But it was really fun. Again, this bag was like my favorite part of this outfit. And I also made this little flower one, but I didn't have any videos on it. And again here, as I mentioned, after the glue is dry with the applique, I started just doing the rest of the detailing on the bag, like these little vine portions with the leaves. So I just freehanded all of that. And I hoped I didn't mess up. Still probably the most trickiest part of painting because I had to hand paint it, but good thing all my years of nail art came down to this one moment. So yeah, first I did the leaves and the vines, and this fabric paint I used wasn't very pigmented, so I did like 2 layers of this, which is fine. The second layer could be used for cleanup. And then after I was done stitching all the leaves on, I grabbed that 3D paint again, and I just did a little outline layer where the applique raw edges are. And one way I make sure to smooth out my 3D paint was to grab a little brush I have here and just like smooth out any lumps there was. And let me tell you, as I said, I love using this piping paint, as I call it, because it reminds me of cake decorating, because I must have been a cake decorator in another lifetime. So yeah. And again, I like adding all these different textures to my bag. It makes me feel more fancy. So, and there's a part of me that loves also making this bag because I felt like Marinette too, because Marinette probably makes all her clothing pieces, so it made me feel like I was like the real life Marinette Dupain-Cheng. And I kind of think about maybe this is the same way Marinette might made her bag in the show too, so I feel even more connected. So I recommend making the bag, but if you just want to buy the bag from the Zach Hero store, I won't blame you. But I really love how the bag came out. I think it came out super cute. Definitely one of my favorite parts of this cosplay. So that is how I made the bag. And the last part I did for this cosplay was the shoes. So here's the base of my shoes. I just bought them from Amazon. They're these suede blush flats I got. They cost me like $20. And to make it more accurate to Marinette shoes, I grabbed some black binding to make sure it was the correct size. We don't want to make the same mistake we did with the jacket. And I just hot glued the edges to the shoes. So one side I did hot glue and the other side I did hot glue. And I make sure it was stable with these little sewing clips. And by far, this was much more difficult than I expect. Adding binding to shoes is really hard, but I wanted my shoes to be accurate to Marinette as much as I can. So this was definitely the hardest part, and that's why I waited for it to be last, because again, Marinette took me a few months to make because I had a lot of breaks in between because of life circumstances. But yeah, the shoes were the last thing I needed to do, and I literally did them the day before I had my photo shoot as Marinette. So yes, and then after we're done with the binding, the last thing I did was add the little bows to the shoes. So I just grabbed some of that leftover binding, I made a bow, and I just hot glue it on. Now here I only did like a dot of hot glue. Don't recommend doing that. I recommend doing like stitching it with like super glue because they will fall off eventually, or adding like glue on the centerpiece and everywhere you can put glue to destabilize it. So, but hot glue does work. So that's what I did here, and it's like that. The shoes are finished, and I love them a lot. I wear them all the time, even beyond cosplay, because I think they're so cute. But I have a whole bunch of Miraculous Ladybug cosplays, so I used them. And the very last thing I did was add a little handle to the bag. So I just grabbed this purse cord they can buy on Amazon, and I just attached it to the closure, and just like that, Marinette's done. So here's the reveal.
that's how I made my Marinette Dupain-Cheng cosplay. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of fooled myself on this one because I thought it would be like an easy cosplay and really fast. And don't get me wrong, it was easy, but it took me way longer to make this cosplay than I expected because I thought it was like a day or two project because I had the base. No, it took me a little bit while to actually get this cosplay done. But in the end, I love how everything came out. And I wore Marinette so many times, and I have so many great memories with her, and I still wear her till this day. But yeah, I just want to show you guys the pieces one more time. So I already showed you guys the blazer, but here is what the pants look like. And if you did the hot glue thing like I did, do not put them in the washer and dryer. I recommend just hand washing it and air drying it because the hot glue will come apart. But yeah, I love how the bottom of the pants came out. And I think they look super cute. So there's the pants. And I know that Marinette has like stitching detailings on the front of her pants, but I don't want to do that. But here are the pants. Love them a lot. Wore them so many times. I also want to show you guys the shoes. So I thought it was funny that the brand that made these shoes are called Dream Paris, which I find very fitting for this cosplay. And you look at the sole of the shoes, like the bottom. Look at the little detailing on it. Like, they're so Marinette. I think they're so perfect. And yeah, so here the shoes came out. And one thing I would change about the shoes though is just like the jacket. I felt like I grabbed too small of binding. So if I do this again, I'll definitely grab bigger binding. I feel like that would make it easier. But I love how they came out. But I do recommend wearing socks with these outfits, like the ballerina socks. So, but I love them. I think the shoes came out great. And of course, here's the bag. Now, I know you can buy the bag from the Zach Hero store, but that's like $50. I don't have that type of money, and I already have like the resources to make the purse, so I love how the purse came out. It's one of my favorite parts of this cosplay. And I do have the shirt. I just don't know where I put it. Oh, it's right here. Here's the shirt. One thing I would change about the shirt, like what I did was I would just put black binding around it, like black bias tape around the collars and the bottom to get that look, but I painted it with black paint instead because I was in a con crunch again while I was making this cosplay, so I just used black paint and it looks fine, but I feel like black binding will make it look much nicer. But I feel like me painting the shirt was a little bit extra, like doing like the flower detailing, but you know what? It made it accurate to the show. So that's my Marinette cosplay. That's how I did it. So hopefully this is informative for you because I know a lot of people always ask how I did my Marinette lining and had all the stuff for the cosplay. So now you guys have a reference for it, and I hope it's a good reference too. So that's how I made my Marinette cosplay. And I'm so happy I can finally show you guys that because I love my Marinette cosplay. I have so many great memories with it, like me and my mom con crunching, working on that blazer. That's like one of the last things we did together. And then meeting Bryce Papenbrook and meeting all these different stars, meeting my Miraculous Ladybug bestie. I have a lot of attachments to this cosplay and I still wear it to this day. And I don't think I would never stop wearing it until it doesn't fit me anymore. So I love my Marinette cosplay. I'm so happy I can show you guys how I did it too. But until then, that's all for today's video, and I hope you didn't find it boring or cringy, and I hope I catch you in my next one. My next one actually is how I do my Marinette Dupain-Cheng makeup / Ladybug, because they're the same person. So if you want to see how I fully transform into Marinette / Ladybug, like, subscribe, and do all that stuff because that's the next video. So until then, that's all, and bug out!